Hey, and welcome to the Political Show right here on Active FM, where radio has never been better. I'm your girl Cynthia, but you can call me Gix. And with me in studio we have
Gavin Insland.
Pastor Gavin Inslin, right here on the Political Show, where Christ Politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics. And this week's Hot Politics, we are looking at a press conference that was had on Wednesday. And it's quite an interesting press conference. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to give it over to Pastor Gav.
Yeah, basically, we can summarize that press conference by saying that the Afrikaners say, can I be a bit controversial with this headline? The Afrikaners say that America says no to BEE. Obviously, there was a lot of news, over the weekend and late last week, about a delegation of Afrikaners that went to the United States to go meet with members of the Trump administration in order to talk about how America should deal, with South Africa. And they came back, and on Wednesday they had a significant press conference, and we feel we need to talk about it now. Basically, what they said was that the previous delegation led by Cyril Ramaphosa that met in the White House didn't actually tell the truth about what the conditions were that America had set in order to normalize relationships with South Africa. And so they came and they said basically 4 or so conditions that the Americans have set in order to normalize relationships with South Africa. And we're going to discuss this. We're going to talk a little bit about the press conference. And some people are saying that that delegation of Afrikaners was racist. We'll discuss our views on that. But anyway, the Afrikaners say America says no BEE.
So that is what we're going to be speaking about. It's going to be awesome, as always, right here on the Political Show, where Christ Politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics.
This is the Political Show.
So we are looking at a press conference that was held by a delegation that met with Trump in terms of
members of the administration.
Members of the administration, not
So
specifically
more
Donald Trump. Yeah.
Now, just to mention one of the things that I'm just going to interject you.
Yeah.
One of the things that they said was that the job of dealing with South Africa has been handed over to J.D. Vance, who's the vice president. We have a deputy president in South Africa. That's why I was getting mixed up. But so they met with a number of officials. They met with people in business, and they also met people from the vice president's office. There was a question that was asked by the SABC journalist. Okay. About who they saw and what the point is and why is America interfering in South Africa and all sorts of stuff. The fact of the matter is, the same people demanded that America interfere in South Africa in the 1980s, with apartheid. But anyway, what they said was, in particular, Corne Mulder, what he said was, what they're saying is that if we don't meet these conditions, they don't want to have anything to do with us, and they're not going to interfere. They're saying for them to have something to do with us, these are their conditions. Otherwise, we don't have, they don't want to have any dealings with us. So the question then goes around, America's, I think, our second biggest trading partner. I think that's what they said. I haven't checked those stats. So I'm just quoting from the press conference. Also, they're the biggest economy in the world, and also they have the strongest military in the world. And do we want a situation whereby we don't have any relationships with a nation like that? That's what we should look at. And the policies that we're sticking to, they're asking, are those policies helping the country, or are those policies hurting the country? And that's something South Africans need to look at. So these were the kinds of back and forth that were going in the question and answer session, after the initial statements that were made by them at the press conference.
Yeah, so the delegation included Corne Mulder, who is part of the Freedom Front Plus. He's the leader of the Freedom Front Plus. Dr. Theo De Jager,
You went to Afrikaans school, so you should be able to say that surname.
I still have a French tongue.
Yeah, Afrikaans surnames spoken with a French accent.
He's from Southern African Agri Initiative. They're in Gerard.
So they speak on behalf of the farmers
Yeah.
and the agricultural industry.
Yes. And then there was Gerard
Papenfuss. I knew she was going to battle with that.
Papenfuss.
I'm sure there's some of those Congolese names I would have struggled with, you know what I mean?
Ish.
But Papenfuss.
He's part of the National Employers Association. And like we mentioned, the meeting was in Washington. And they reported
There were others in the
meeting with
delegation, but
officials,
they were the main guys.
Yeah, no, these were the main people. So, like mentioned, they met with officials from the White House and various U.S. stakeholders to advance dialogue. And the main theme was was centered on exploring the conditions required normalized relations between South Africa and the U.S., especially after the heightened tension. So we're going to go through some of the things that were discussed and just get our thoughts on that. So the first thing was the farm. Obviously, it was going to be discussed.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
There's a narrative in South Africa that we are a sovereign state. Now, how do you enforce the fact that you're a sovereign state? With your army. So we can have a problem there. If someone wants to invade us, our army is a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if anyone's thinking of invading us, I think you're going to have more than a few problems, once you're here. Because our people are a lot stronger than our army.
Yeah.
So and the people here are violent. So, to subjugate them is not going to be that easy. But, so that when people are saying things like that, the reality is, first of all, those same people, many of them were saying something totally different in the 1980s. And also what these guys said their mission was to try and avert a situation where America cuts us off. So we've got this AGOA agreement, which is us and a number of African nations, whereby we're able to export without tariff to America. So we've now got some tariffs that have been implemented on us by Trump, but that was part of a broader initiative. That was not because of that meeting. But the AGOA agreement now is expiring, so it needs to be renegotiated. And to what extent we're going to be able to get economic concessions, is going to be dependent on how we respond to their conditions. And I just wanted to say that before you go through the conditions. And also, one of them actually said, the guy, the agricultural guy, what is it, the Yacha?
Yeah.
So what he was saying was that, I don't know if it was one of the Congress people they spoke to or whatever, or one of the business people was saying, that with a particular fruit that he farms, I can't remember if it's mangoes or some other fruit that he farms, that he produces on his farm. He said, if we can normalize the relationships, I will buy as many of those, as of that product as what you can produce. What they were saying was, if we normalize relations with the States, the amount of trade we can build with America is limitless. And the other problem in South Africa, and just to set the scene, South Africa in the last 20, 30 years, our economy has been deindustrialized. In other words, many of our factories and many of the things that we produce no longer exist. And so we're like America, actually, because with most countries, we have a trade deficit. We're importing stuff, which means our wealth is going out of our country. And yeah, we have the one place, one of the few places, America, where we have a trade surplus. And the amount of trade the Americans are saying that we could have with them is limitless. And if you look at the economic state of South Africa, I think most people are not going to be happy with the way that the government is handling this, because we're losing out on markets, which means we're losing out on the ability for people to create jobs, and all of that sort of stuff. So, and the final thing I wanted to say about this, we side with Iran. So, the ANC is not even fully in power. They only got 39% of the vote. So they've only got 39% representation in parliament. Yet we side with Iran. Iran chants, their supreme leader shouts, death to America. How do you expect them to react? I'm just asking. If you say, hey, death to my wife, then you expect that I'm going to be okay with you. Nah, I'm not going to be okay with you. I'm sorry.
Doesn't make sense. So the first topic that they speak about is the farmer tax and security measures. The delegation emphasized the violent attacks on farmers, especially Afrikaner farmers, that they've become more serious.
Sorry, Corne Mulder, I just want to correct some of the stuff there. Corne Mulder stated that their complaint is about farm murders in general because it threatens the food security, irrespective of race. And there is a problem. People are being murdered on the farms, and it's a national security threat. And he said not only the farms, it's happening in other sectors of society too. And it's actually, the murder rate is unacceptable.
Yeah.
So that's actually what he said in the press conference. So it wasn't just about Afrikaner murders.
They relayed that the U.S. officials specifically urged South Africa to classify farm attacks as priority crimes, possibly handled by the Hawks.
Now, just in 2020, can I give you a stat? In 2020, there was a claim that something like 22% of the commercial farms at that stage in South Africa were now black owned. So, and some of the murders were them. So black farmers are being murdered too. So it's not just about the Afrikaner farmers. And also with what's going on, and also the Expropriation Act and things like that, what's happening is the farmers can't get loans, which then inhibits their ability to grow production, which means over time we're gradually producing less and less food. That's a serious risk to us.
Yeah. So they say that these farm...
Sorry, I'm quoting them now. Just want to tell you.
Murders and attacks should be handled by the Hawks rather than just the routine policing that has been happening. This is to provide more visible protection for rural communities to reassure international investors. And then the second one...
There's nothing racist about that. And yet it's being portrayed as a thing only about Afrikaners. And you know... What they were saying in the press conference is not what's being reported in the media. The media is lying.
Yeah. Then land reform and no expropriation without compensation. So a core demand relayed to the delegation was that land must not be taken without due process and fair compensation. The U.S. officials want clear legal safeguards to ensure them that investment won't be undermined by abrupt expropriation.
Now that protects their citizens.
Yeah.
If their citizen invests in South Africa, they don't want a situation where their citizens' property or whatever gets taken through expropriation without compensation.
Yeah. The third one is the kill the Boer chant. A recurring ask was for the ANC to publicly and unequivocally condemn historic chants like kill the Boer. This symbolic gesture would be seen as essential for repairing diplomatic ties and signaling government rejection of hate speech.
I don't understand how people in South Africa are defending that statement. And people will say it's because you white. I think saying kill anyone is a bad thing. There's lots of people who say kill, kill, kill. And that how do you defend that? It's like that guy, Bob Villan. Death to the RDF at Glastonbury this past weekend. How do you defend that?
Yeah, you can't.
That's supposed to be a peace concert.
And then the fourth one is the Black Economic Empowerment exemption. So multiple U.S. business stakeholders raised concern that South Africa's BEE affirmative action policies acted as non-tariff barriers. They advocated for trade-sensitive exemptions for American companies operating in sectors crucial for bilateral investment.
So what they're saying is if a US company is going to come invest in South Africa, they don't want their companies to be forced to enter into ownership agreements that are dictated to by them. They don't want their companies to be forced to employ who South Africa says they must employ.
Yeah.
They want the business people to be able to do business, obviously within legal frameworks and stuff. but you've got a policy that many South Africans don't want either. It's not like there's uniform support for this policy. So there's a massive divide, and many people are saying that a majority of people in South Africa do not want these race-based policies. So, and I mean, a lot of podcasts are coming up complaining about this, complaining, for example, about Cyril Ramaphosa, who defends all the what they call transformation. And meantime, he's one of the richest. He's in the top 0.0000005% of the wealthiest people in the country. I mean, there's maybe if there's 10 white people that are wealthier than him in South Africa, it's a lot. So how does he come and defend something like that when he's like obscenely rich?
Yeah. So why these issues matter, basically. So the first one with the farmer tax is that it's
this is according to them.
This is according to them, yes. A test for ruling party's commitment to rural safety, impacting investor confidence. In terms of the land reform, the shape of land policy affects property rights and foreign investments.
Yeah, because it's not just land.
Yeah.
This is where the media lies. They talk about land reform. The expropriation with null compensation, which is the official term for this law that was passed, that the president signed, talks about property. Property is not land. Property is land. It's also your pension fund. It's a million other things. It's anything that you can own, including your intellectual property, can be expropriated with null compensation. Now, what's the difference with null compensation to no compensation? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Now, that is a disgusting law.
Yeah.
That means legally they can engage in theft of other people's property. Now, what about their pension funds? Because your pension fund, if you've got a pension fund, it's at risk. The funds in your medical aid that you're putting in every month so that the medical aid can stand in for you if you have a medical emergency, that's at risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the third one is the hate speech. And these symbolic gestures, like condemning the violent charge of Kill the Boer, is crucial for repairing diplomatic relations. And then with BEE, it determines access conditions for American businesses under South Africa's empowerment laws. So that's basically what they covered in the press conference and spoke about. And what are your overall thoughts on this topic, these topics?
Now, you've got these gentlemen who were speaking there, and they made a lot of sense. They were very practical. That they weren't beating around the bush like a lot of the other politicians. And the thing is, it's not just these Afrikaner men, because that particular delegation was Afrikaners, and they actually wanted to go and have a discussion with people in the US. Because they are the central topic in this whole discussion, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they wanted to have their say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these are very pragmatic guys. They're peace-loving guys. And they're guys, now, they might be lying, but in terms of their words, their statement is that they want all South Africans to flourish. And the reality is, I'm going to talk now as a white South African. I think most white South Africans want all South Africa to flourish. And the reason why I say that is because if all South Africa flourishes, all South Africa becomes stable. And if all South Africa is stable, then there's a better life for all. And that's more and more of the podcasters are coming up because you listen to all the media and you think that black people think differently. No, most of your podcasters are saying exactly the same thing. I'm talking about the black podcasters now.
Yeah.
They're saying exactly the same thing. There's a few of them that are left-wing Marxist ideologues, and I don't want to necessarily name them, but the new guys, the people that aren't connected to anyone, those podcasters that are coming up are all right-wing. And this is something that we've said on the show. People in South Africa tend more to the right because a lot of them have Christian values. And we're not represented. We in my view in this country are the majority, and we're not represented. We interviewed Reverend Kenneth Meshwe a few weeks ago, and to be honest with you, what he says, the majority of people in South Africa believe. That's their values. What he says is what they believe. Yet they've got 3 seats.
Yeah.
So many people in this country are frustrated because we feel that we're not adequately represented in Parliament. And these guys were talking like that. And when you listen to what they're saying, there's a lot of black podcasters that are saying exactly the same thing. Because people are hiding behind apartheid, and they're hiding behind, who owns the means of production and the economy and all sorts of things like that, to actually hide the mess they've made. Because really they've made a mess. And then people are suffering economically.
Yeah.
People are suffering in the hospitals. And then on top of it, there's these campaigns that are coming as a result against foreigners and stuff like that, which many aspects of it are disturbing. First of all, for example, and this is all coming out of the way that this country's been run. So what's happening is, and you'd obviously know about Operation Dudula. So these guys are going and they're telling the foreigners, you must get out, go back to Mozambique or wherever and wherever. And that's disturbing for me. But on the other side, they're going to hijack buildings. Where the buildings have been hijacked, so criminal syndicates come in some instances even kill the owner of the house or the owner of the flats or whatever. And they just take over. And they refuse to pay. And when the owner goes to the police, nothing gets done. And that's a recipe for disaster. And this is what's going on in South Africa. And so people are deeply disturbed and deeply troubled by this. And in my view, if you showed this on SABC Live, South African Broadcasting Corporation, and then conducted a poll thereafter, I think the majority of all South Africans would actually agree with what was said here. I just wanted to mention what they said. Their aim was to go and to say, this is the policy of one party within the GNU, maybe a few others, and obviously the EFF and MK. It's not the whole country. So what they're asking for is that those politicians be punished. And don't put punitive measures on the country which is going to hurt the poor. To be honest, when they were pushing for the disinvestment campaign in the 1980s, and I was vehemently opposed to apartheid. I was not happy about the disinvestment campaign. And I'll just give one example as to why. We were one of the large wool producers in the world. Because of that disinvestment campaign, we lost a lot of our wool markets, and a lot of them went to Australia. When Nelson Mandela became the president, you think Australia offered those wool markets back? Not a chance. So, campaigning for disinvestment, I'm not for that. And I'm very glad these gentlemen, they of the same view. It's not good for our country to withdraw investment, because then you're withdrawing money, and when you're withdrawing money, you exasperate the problems of of the poor. And so the last thing, they were talking about, we've got all of these black-white issues. But if you look at the unemployment rate, it's horrendous. If you look at the amount of people that are on social grants, it's horrendous. And we need to allow people to, we need to take the barriers away and allow them to trade and allow them to build businesses. And through that create jobs, because South Africans are very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And even a lot of the people that come here from other parts of Africa are very entrepreneurial. There are barriers that are preventing them from flourishing. And the barriers are legal ones that are implemented by the political elites.
Yeah.
And those need to be removed. And what they were saying, I fully agree with.
Yeah. In Zechariah chapter 7, verse 9 to 10, it says, "This is what the Lord Almighty says. Administer true justice, show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppose the widow or the fatherless, the foreigner or the poor. Do not plot evil against each other."
Yeah, what that's talking about again is true justice. And I mean, this was something we were talking about recently in that that episode about the advocate, in the sense of a trial that wasn't going to be in court on the 9th of June due to the fact that he was running the Comrades Marathon. And people in South Africa are crying out for justice. And when we read these verses from Zechariah, what we see there is that people cry out because people are made in the image of God. And the character of God demands justice. And if the rulers do not make sure that there's justice, those rulers are going to be seriously held accountable to the Lord. I was listening to someone this week who was, and again, this is a black podcaster, okay? So it's not coming from the white community. That's just, I feel it's important to mention that. And this podcaster who's talking from a biblical perspective, it's Bonsai Shongwe. We've quoted him before on the show. And what he was talking about, he went to the verses from the New Testament which describe what the role of the government is. And what the Bible literally says is that the role of the government is to strike terror in the hearts of the evil. Okay? So, in other words, punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. That's the job of the government. And so he said, any country, based on that now, that's God's model. Any country where that has a high crime rate, the government must pull out of any state-owned enterprise until they get right. Basically, terrorize the wicked and punish them and praise the good. Until you get that right, we don't want the government doing anything else in the country. And that's how I feel about our government. And it includes the second biggest party, the Democratic Alliance. It includes the third biggest party, MK. It includes the EFF. It includes many of the parties in Parliament. I don't want to hear that they're going to create jobs or they're going to do all of the stuff. I want them to create an environment where there's justice, which means we need to be able to defend our country. So you're claiming you're going to create jobs. But the reality at the end of the day is that we don't have a defense force that can successfully defend this country if we get invaded. And then we want to claim we're a sovereign nation. How can you be a sovereign nation if you don't, have an adequate army? And so looking at that passage from Zechariah, people are made in the image of God. God desires justice. People desire justice. And where there is no justice, the government needs to fix that. Or else they're going to answer to God.
Yeah. This has been an amazing show right here on Active FM. Radio has never been better. Let us know your thoughts on the comments below. Did you watch the press conference? What are your thoughts on what they said? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let us know in the comments below. I'm your girl Cynthia, but you can call me Gix. And with me in studio we've had
Gavin Ensslin.
Pastor Gavin Ensslin, right here on the Political Show, where Christ politics is
Hot politics.
Hot politics.